Rhetorical question. Which lasts longer, your money or your month? And how does that compare to 5 years ago? I'd be willing to bet that most people, if they're being honest with themselves, have more month than money. There's several factors that play a role in this, but for me personally, one of the biggest is my yearly rent increase. My rent's gone up about $500 a month over the past 5 years, and as a result, I'm spending less money on frivolous things, and I know I'm not alone in that. Not to mention gas prices, groceries, and just plain existing. How about your base pay? How does it stack up to when you first started driving? Unless you're brand new, chances are pretty good you've seen some drastic reductions. One more question before we get into it. Are all of these things a sign of what's yet to come? What's going on, everybody? I'm Zach Drives Fast for the RideShare Guy, and in this video, we're going to talk about the overall state of the gig economy and what it could look like in 2024 and beyond. Before we go any further, my apologies, I am under the weather, so if I sound a little nasally, that's why. Turns out a good deal wasn't the only thing I got at Walmart. Speaking of Walmart, Spark has been my most consistent moneymaker for the last year and a half, and I like the concept because people are always going to need groceries. People can cut out fast food and install every other delivery app, but without groceries, they don't survive. That right there is what separates apps like Uber Eats, Grubhub, and DoorDash from apps like Instacart, Shipt, and Spark. One is a splurge, while the other is a necessity. And while some might rightfully argue that getting your groceries delivered is also a splurge, for me personally, the cost of a Walmart Plus membership is less than the gas that I would spend to and from Walmart every month. Matter of fact, I wrote the script for this video after a long day of doing Spark. It's about a week before Christmas, and I've been noticing something a little alarming. It kind of makes me wonder what it's going to look like going into next year. We're about a week away from Christmas, and I'm still finding myself waiting around for orders on Spark. Up until very recently, this was the one app that didn't oversaturate in my market. They were the one app that I knew I could turn on and be all but guaranteed to earn decent money. Now, this is not a Spark problem, but rather a gig app problem. They have millions of vehicles at their disposal that they don't have to pay for, put gas in, or insure, and millions of drivers that they don't have to pay benefits to or an hourly rate. So, why wouldn't they oversaturate? Matter of fact, I'd like to give you a quick example. Let's say you owned a chain of coffee shops and it cost you nothing to open a new one. You'd have a coffee shop on every block, right? We are that coffee shop. I know I'm not the only one whose rent is out of control and spends unholy amounts of money at the grocery store, and this is likely a huge contributing factor to why we constantly see new drivers. If driver acquisition actually cost these companies a substantial amount of money, or we were driving company vehicles, we'd be having a different conversation, but that's just not the case. The reality is, more drivers means that more orders get delivered quicker and cheaper. Oversaturation is good for business for the apps, but I'd like you to let me know in the comments if it's just as easy today to make $100 as it was a year and a half ago. Matter of fact, pause the video and let me know. Don't worry, I'll wait. Of course, it's much harder in most markets now. Sure, there are outliers that can still easily earn $200 a day on DoorDash alone. And if you're in one of those 7 markets, I'm happy for you, and the rest of us will live vicariously through you. If you're not in one of those 7 markets, check out Solo by clicking the link in the description. They'll provide insanely detailed market analytics and tell you the best times to drive. In fact, in some markets, they even offer a minimum pay guarantee, so if you fall below what they say you're going to make, they'll cut you a check for the difference. The link's in the description. You could have more steady earnings, and you'd be helping support the channel in the process. Look, I have never been the guy to blow smoke, and I'm damn sure not about to start now. I think we're in for a rough year, and I've been seeing this coming for a while. Let me tell you a quick story. Almost a year ago to date, I was out on a night where I should have made a ton of money. We all know those nights. Maybe there was a sporting event, or bad weather, or power got knocked out somewhere. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is, as experienced drivers, we know when the money's coming, and that was definitely one of those nights. My waiting place is surrounded by a bunch of high-end restaurants, and to make matters better for me, very few drivers tend to wait there. And that usually plays out nicely for me. This specific night, I got to my waiting place and I turned on Grubhub and Uber Eats. For some reason, the DoorDash map was gray, which I kind of found odd. The next thing I found strange was I found myself waiting about 15 to 20 minutes in between orders. I found it so strange, in fact, that I thought something was wrong with my phone, but no, it was just slow. On New Year's Eve. I think many of us who have been around for a while remember how it was when everything was shut down, and now that things are largely back to normal, we feel like something's broken. But what is normal in gig work? If we're being completely honest, it's extreme highs and extreme lows. Who knows? In the next few years, the economy might pick up, people might start ordering again, and people might actually learn how to tip. But in the meantime, we all know that's not happening, and that's not just my opinion. I have some data to back it up. Over this past summer, Business Insider put out a very telling article about how things are going for gig apps and therefore drivers. Several large chains shared some of their data and confirmed what I've long suspected. Orders through third-party apps like DoorDash and Uber Eats were down. Meanwhile, orders through the restaurant's website were up. Think about it for a moment. It makes sense. During the lockdowns, more people than ever used these delivery apps, but now that things are largely back to normal and the stimulus checks have dried up, people want their dollar to go as far as possible. So, they tighten the purse strings, and it's usually the frivolous shit that's the first to go. What are you going to choose to order from? A third-party app like DoorDash or Uber Eats who's going to charge you marked up prices, fees, and a tip, or directly through the restaurant's website who's going to charge you the menu price? Like with many trends, the novelty is wearing off with many customers, and the convenience no longer justifies the price. That's why orders through third-party platforms are down, and takeout orders are up. If you would like to read that article, I'll leave a link in the description. Let me ask you this. Do you want to be an employee of one of these companies? Like an actual no-shit W-2 employee complete with a schedule and benefits? If you're like 80% of drivers, the answer to that question is likely no. Now, what if you were forced to choose between being an employee or no longer driving for the apps? Let me know what you would do in the comments. In 2024, over a dozen states are going to vote on legislation that directly pertains to what we do. There will almost certainly be some wins for drivers, but also some losses. I want you to open your Uber driver app and navigate to the section where you schedule hours. Did you find it? Depending on when and where you're watching this video, that part of the app might actually exist for you. Recently, the media has been touting how drivers in New York City are making almost $30 an hour. But all isn't exactly as it seems. In New York City, the average utilization rate of a driver, or in plain English, the percentage of the hour that they're staying busy, is 60%. For easy math, we're going to say that the average driver is going to earn $15 an hour, plus tips, but believe me, we're going to come back to that part in a minute. So far, that doesn't sound too bad, does it? But would you take that deal if it meant you had to schedule on every app you drove for? I personally wouldn't, and let me explain why. There's no guarantee that you're going to be able to get hours when it's actually busy. Are you going to get hours at 2 p.m. when nobody's ordering, or 6 p.m. on a Saturday? What if you could only get hours in a small zone that only has fast food? Is that worth $15 an hour and having to schedule? For those of you who think that this is just a New York City problem, I'd like to remind you, there's about 14 states that are looking at doing something similar. A few moments ago, I said that it was $15 an hour plus tips, and it's the plus tips part that should make that a sweet deal. The problem is, both DoorDash and Uber Eats have disabled upfront tipping in New York City. Matter of fact, that seemed to be the only part of this deal they did willingly. Earlier in the video, I said that oversaturation is a good thing for the apps. So is disabling upfront tipping. Let me explain. Along with that fake $30 an hour, customers also got hit with drastically inflated fees, and to reduce sticker shock at the checkout screen, the companies disabled our tips, effectively duct taping our wallet shut. Basically, they're guaranteed to get theirs, but we're probably not going to get ours. Look, moral of the story is, I don't think it's going to be long at all before we see lawmakers who don't know a damn thing about what we do calling the shots. And when that happens, there's a very real chance that that could come with some major drawbacks for us. If you live in a state that's going to be voting on gig worker legislation, please take the time to educate your lawmakers. To summarize the video, oversaturation is a problem that's likely not going to get any better. Inflation is through the roof, and people don't have money like they used to, so fewer customers are ordering. On top of all of that, the apps keep taking on new drivers. If that wasn't bad enough, in many states around the country, our financial well-being hangs in the balance of lawmakers who probably don't know what we do. I guess the moral of the story is, I just don't want to see anybody get blindsided. Pay attention to what's going on around you, and don't ignore warning signs. Educate your lawmakers, be on as many apps as you can, experiment with different zones, and most importantly, always adapt. Well, that is going to about wrap up the video. If you haven't done so yet, please do consider pressing the like button and subscribing to the RideShare Guy. You can catch my videos here every Tuesday. If this video resonated with you, check out this video where I tell you how I'm adapting to some of these changes. I'm Zach Drives Fast for the RideShare Guy. Take care.